All right, and I want to let everybody know that we are recording this. So this will be up. We upload it to our YouTube channel, and then, as always, I will post it on the community in about 24 hours. So if you know people who are missing out today and they're sad about it, just let them know that this will be posted, so don't worry. Let's see, last time we talked a lot about the programs that are out there for women and how those programs have been kind of retrofitted for women specifically and how they're working in recruitment, retention, and reactivation. So I know Marcia Brownlee, are you on the phone?
I am on. Hi, Kristen.
Excellent. Hi, Marcia. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Great. So I know that you wanted to give a little more information about some stuff that Artemis is doing, and maybe just start us off on a topic. Is that correct?
I'm happy to. Yeah, I absolutely can.
Awesome. We'll go for it. Stage is yours.
All right. So Artemis is an initiative of the National Wildlife Federation to engage women hunters and anglers in conservation advocacy. And one of the areas that we are focusing on primarily in the recruitment, reactivation, and the recruitment, retention, and reactivation of women hunters and anglers is on the retention, and really focusing on developing that community to support long-term engagement. I think as we talked about previously on the Women in Hunting call, there are so many great programs about recruitment and introducing women to hunting, but building that long-term community within the broader hunting and sporting community is still something that we're working towards. And so Artemis does a lot of programming to focus on elevating women as experts in the field and building that community so women have people they can just call up and say, hey, do you want to go hunt together? And so I would love to talk about retention and other efforts that are happening in that area and hear what everybody else is doing and talk more deeply about that.
Awesome, thanks. And I'm noticing in the question pod that one of the answers we got is using social network groups to build a community. And I know Artemis does that really well. You guys have the Facebook platform, you have a really active website, you've got webinars and podcasts and all kinds of things. So Marcia, do you have numbers on recruitment or retention for Artemis specifically?
So for Artemis specifically, we are entering into our 4th year of being an active organization. I think we just celebrated our birthday, which is pretty exciting. And right now we're at 11,000 women across the country on our social platforms that are actively engaged in, as you mentioned, our webinars and our podcasts and our email newsletter. We now have 40 ambassadors across 19 states that were activated in February of this year. So we haven't been able to implement them to their full potential given the pandemic, but they are working on setting up more specific localized social networks like Facebook groups and state-specific Instagram pages and starting to really build that community in their state and eventually hosting camps and learning opportunities and social opportunities in their area. So we don't have specific numbers on their outreach yet, but for nationwide, it's 11,000 women.
Okay, awesome, thanks. And we talked last time about how recruitment efforts, especially with women, turned into retention efforts really quickly because the social aspect of hunting and the social community and having kind of a backup of that social community is really important for women. So we had other groups like Bo and Doe's from the Mule Deer Foundation, had them talk about some of their retention programs, and that was really helpful, I thought. So those things kind of get at a lot of what I'm seeing in the question pod about relationships outside of programs. I like this one that says next step resources and info. So I want to hear from some of you guys. If you have a program or you've been through a program, what were some of the next steps and communication efforts that take place to make sure that people stay in that social connection?
I can start us off with that because I think when I started early on with Artemis, one of the lessons that was, or pieces of wisdom that was passed on to me, which I think is true for everything, is people do things for people. And so I think when you're asking people to maintain engagement, a lot of that has to do with the relationships that were built there. And so we focus really on sustaining those relationships.
Sure. And in your programs, do you try to have only women instructors, or do you allow men to be instructors also?
At this point, we are focusing on having, well, I guess it varies depending on the program. We prioritize having women instructors, but we are about creating an inclusive community. So when we, for example, when we did our Go Confident course last year in Missoula, we did have a male instructor come in to talk to us about fishing, which was just a 2-hour overview as a part of a 2-week program. So again, I think with Artemis, our goal is to focus on building an inclusive community, not an exclusive community, with with our primary focus on elevating women as experts in the field. So we do tend to lean more strongly towards women instructors, but not exclusively.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying with being inclusive is really important. I mean, we've talked in this field about being inclusive so much, but if we take a women's group and we say, no, it's only for women, men can't come, no boys allowed, I think that sets us back equally as much. And so finding men that know how to teach women in the right way and can say, I don't know, go ask the woman instructor or another female instructor. I think that's super important. And somebody else mentioned that in the question box too. And I know I did a Women in the Outdoors event with NWTF, like early when I started hunting, and they had both instructors. And at first I was kind of like, oh, I thought this was women in the outdoors, not men in the outdoors. And then I kind of took a step back and realized that, that kind of attitude is how we got where we didn't want to be. And so having a more open mind about instructors and who's allowed in our space is really important, even when we're trying to build each other up and be the go-getter feminist, Flora wants to know, is Artemis hiring in California?
Not hiring anytime soon, but we are always looking for volunteers, right? Isn't everybody?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I add on to that? Go ahead, Marcia.
I was just going to say, I do think we do make distinctions about times when it is important to have all women groups, particularly if we're talking about hunt camps in a new area or spaces where we really want to focus on building those female connections. But we are also equally encouraging when we offer educational opportunities that are more social in nature, that everybody is welcome. And I was once joking, I was on a podcast and they asked if men are welcome, and I said, yes, men are always welcome to our educational events as long as they understand that they will be led by women. So that's kind of what we put out there. It's like everybody's always welcome. These are women-led events.
That's a really interesting perspective. I wanted to add in on the side of, always taking volunteers and retaining female participants. We know that females are a growing consumer segment, right? Upping % each year. But we know that the next year, based on research, that they're most common to lapse out in comparison to their male newly recruited counterparts. And kind of understanding that dynamic, when we talk with industry and when we talk with our partners, we say, yes, there's more females here. But then when you go to try to set up more female-centric programs with more female experienced leadership, sometimes that pool's not there yet. So when you say the segment is growing, it still has a long way to fully seep into the culture. Maybe we'll talk about it that way, like a good tea, right? The stronger it seeps, the stronger it grows. The idea or some elements, one of the comments in the chat box said relationship, it's all about relationships. Really intrigued to hear or understand better how our partners have successfully pulled in some of those newer female participants and helped them become leaders in their communities. I mean, locally, I just stepped up to be on a board that was all male. I've done it twice now, but it takes a lot, and I'm coming from, 20-some years experience now, but it took a lot to even do that just at that point. So is there a way to fast-track that to help complement? Because we're kind of the cart before the horse, or catch-22, whatever you want to describe it, until we get that continued sustained in participation by females, we might not have that talent pool to escalate up into leadership ranks. So it perplexed me for a while, and I just wanted to see what other people were thinking about that.
I think that's a good point, because when you are, you want to make sure that you're elevating people who have the skills and the knowledge to be that leader. And I don't know that there's a way to fast track that other than providing as much opportunity to help scaffold those skills as possible. But I also think that there are a lot of women leaders who do have that knowledge and do have that capacity who just don't know that they do or see it. And so I think having conversations that can help them see the strengths and the knowledge that they have that they can bring to the table can help fill in that gap as well.
Definitely some kind of support role for sure, yeah, in building their own confidence. That makes sense.
So we have a kind of side conversation going in the chat box that I think is relevant and could add to some of your points. Holly, are you called in by chance?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah. So
Okay,
do you want to talk a little bit about what you guys did in Arkansas with your network after Bowevin?
Yeah, we have a Becoming an Outdoor Woman program in Arkansas that's been around for a while, and I was an instructor at that program and also a part of the agency that runs that program. But I just noticed that year after year, like we talked in the first coffee talk, that a lot of repeat visitation was happening, and our BOW program coordinator made steps to reduce that, as we talked about in the last coffee talk, of reducing repeat visitors to that because it was for beginners. But I just noticed that a lot of women were coming, and I would ask them if they used the skills they had learned last year, and they had not. So they were learning and coming, but they were not using, which is why we're talking today. And so a lot of those BOW attendees were in my region, so I decided to have a monthly meeting, a network meeting, because I work at a nature center, where they could come monthly. We might have a speaker or something, but they could get to know each other. And then, so we still do that, but I found that they needed something more to share their experiences, like pictures and stories, and I wanted to encourage them to invite each other, because maybe they now know each other. They know that Susie's good at hunting, so I'll go with her, or Margie's good at fishing, I'll ask her to go. So I created a Facebook group that was private at first because I wanted a safe space, and I recruited a volunteer to help lead it. And that was 3 years ago, and it was slow progress. So that Facebook group is now 3 years old. It has about 600 members, and they have gotten to know each other. So they have built community. They are sharing pictures. They are inviting each other to go either to other programs or on their own. And I think it's working to retain these women. And some of the women have evolved into, they went from beginners to more advanced to now they're hunter ed instructors. And now they are helping us lead programs as mentors through the Becoming an Outdoor Woman program. So now there was a need for that Facebook group to grow into different regions of Arkansas, because women from other parts of the state were like, hey, we want that. And so about a year ago or so, we developed regional groups, and those are starting and slowly developing, but we're staying consistent with it. And I see we are building community, and I think that's helped with the retention part of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like what you're saying, and there's a lot of good conversation coming out of this in the chat box, so I'm just trying to keep up a little bit. Ellen, you're making some really good points. Are you on the phone? I'll take that as a no. And remember, if you're not speaking, please just mute so we don't have the background noise. That would be great. Thank you. So Ellen's talking about how starting women in women-only classes and getting them to the point where they're more comfortable to be in kind of co-ed classes is a good way to do that. But you have to typically ask women to be instructors as they don't usually volunteer on their own. That's a really good point, and that's something that I've read over and over again, is you have to, with women especially, you have to ask them to participate. They don't usually come forward, and that's unfortunate. I personally am definitely not that way. Ellen, you say that you're not either, so maybe it just takes women like us who are more dominant to kind of lead that way. Who else? Lori. Lori says, I feel like most people have so many responsibilities that getting folks outside of work and commitment and volunteering consistently is tough. Folks are stingy with their time. Next level experience and continued connection is so important for continued outdoor activity and hunting. And, you know, I love the Facebook groups, because these women's Facebook groups, you know, the more groups that you join, and admittedly a lot of these groups are popping up more recently, that promotes showing pictures of women in the outdoors, because that's a lot of what those groups are. And so the more you see imaging like that on your Facebook timeline or your feed, I think that really encourages women and shows them that, you know, we do belong there. Thanks. And let's see. Ellen added that imaging is critical, and we need more images of women in every walk of life, hunting, shooting, etc., that tells women that they can do it. And so having or being part of these groups, not only are you encouraging the social interaction, you're also kind of filling these timelines and social platforms with women hunting. And so that's super awesome. Let's see. Janice, are you on the phone?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. You made a really good point about women lapsing. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we're kind of at the stage where we have finished our R3 plan. We've been working on it for 2 years, a lot of changeover in staff, but about to the point where we are going to say, okay, we've got it, let's do it. And one of the biggest things we learned, especially in that R3 Practitioner's Guide book, is that you've got to take people beyond, you know, hunter education. And what I put here was a lot of the stuff we learned is that new hunters or new anglers, the reason we lose them is because they don't have anybody to go with, or they don't know where to go. So what we've been doing before actually getting into the whole social networking and getting our partners to hold events that we can send women to, and maybe meetup groups, or now with the advent of online teleconferencing, hopefully that'll open a lot of opportunities to get women to participate in the video conferencing and to keep them engaged. I lost my train of thought there. Yeah, but until we get to the social networks, what we have been doing is retention emails, and not specifically to women yet, but what we're doing is trying to address those two major reasons why they lapse, and we're trying to keep hunting or fishing top of mind. We do something, I guess, within 3 months of them buying their license, either renewing or a new one. They get emails that tell them in many different ways, here's where you can go, here's where you can go by region, here's some tips from IHEA, here's some videos, anything we can do to keep them engaged and not just kind of say goodbye after they buy their license and finish their hunter education.
That's great. And so I know that you said you don't have the women-specific retention emails yet, but what kind of imagery are you using right now, just in general? Are you kind of making sure that you're spanning all the demographics?
Yes. Well, we do try to, we have quite a diversity in Texas, believe it or not. But I run the Big Time Texas Hunts program, and when women do win the hunts, or when a winner takes their wife or daughter, or girlfriend, we always try to use some of those female pictures standing beside a huge scimitar horned oryx that they've just harvested. And generally, though, in general hunting, if we do photo shoots, I always, yes, get women. But I would say, we don't have enough, and we still use a lot of old photos where, some people still have mullets. So we definitely need more women in the images and less mullets.
Hey, mullets are coming back. Mullets are back.
Oh, no, really?
A little bit. Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah, right. Right. That's true. But I think partners, yes, go ahead.
Sorry, two things. One, mullets are coming back. And two, one of the things I really like about your approach with the emails is as was stated before, people's got a lot going on and they've got a lot on their minds, and I think regular emails like that just helps keep hunting at the forefront. So when they are thinking about how they want to spend their weekend, that idea is not far away. So I think that's a really great approach.
Yeah, and I think the big component that we are missing, because again, we don't have our R3 plan all finished and put to bed yet, is partners, is our use of partners. It's like I may have a list of 1.8 million, hunters, licensed hunters, but and what gave me this idea is I got a Cabela's email once, and you know what it was offering? It wasn't offering tents and hiking boots. It was offering a chance to sign up for the National Wildlife Turkey Federation. I'm like, if I could get Cabela's or any other partners to be sending out emails to talk about hunting, so maybe, female organizations to send out and spread the word for us, I think, I don't know about you guys, but we don't have big budgets, so I'm really going to jump on the get a good partner or several, get a media partners, get manufacturing partners, get retail partners, and have them help spread the word by giving them materials they can put on their websites, giving them email copy, e-banners, whatever we need to do, events. I mean, I'm willing to send some game wardens and biologists to Cabela's locations in Texas and have them give talks, because I know Cabela's big on education. So I think it would also help build the social networks that we're lacking as well, to get in bed with our partners and kind of collaborate more.
That's awesome. So does your R3 plan have components of this targeting marketing in it?
Does it have what?
Components of the target marketing that you're talking about, is that included in your R3 plan?
Yes, it is. Yes. We want younger people. We want women. We want more ethnic diversity. Yes, absolutely. Big effort there as a target, yes.
Great. Hey, and if it's written down in a plan, you have to do it, right? That's kind of the
You
point.
have. Of course, we don't have a budget yet, but hey, it's a start. We have a
Well,
plan.
a plan is a good place to start. So
Mhm.
great job on that. Ellen, I know you're on the phone. Did you want to weigh in?
Can you, are you there?
Hey.
Hey.
Welcome.
I think of the most, hi Kristen, how are you? I think some of the most important things for women in retention is that we need to realize there is a lot of the personality that goes into the way you retain them. I'm somebody that will go up to anyone and introduce myself, and I will start asking questions. And I don't care if they're stupid questions. I will ask them. And I've done that at consumer shows and trade shows. A lot of ladies aren't like that. I have stood at a turkey call maker's table and watched women look at those calls as if it was a diamond ring, but they won't walk up to the booth because it's manned by men. And I'll walk up to that lady and I'll start speaking to them, and I can't work a mouth call, so I'll direct them to my friend who does, and they will sit there and they will then interact with him. But until that time that I pull them in and say, basically this guy is a safe guy to speak to, they won't. I've taught seminars where it's all ladies, but one lady brought her boyfriend. And there were women, to my shock, that were coming up to me in the seminar saying, why did she bring her boyfriend? I don't want him here. They were very uncomfortable. So having women instructors is very important for some ladies. For other ladies, it's not as critical a factor. We have some male instructors that instruct for our bows that are dearly loved and very much respected, and the ladies feel comfortable around them. I'm not sure what makes that difference. I just know it exists. The other thing,
Definitely.
when you're talking about retention with women, is that, as I kind of commented on your post today, I love hunting. I got into hunting. It was my husband who got me into hunting, and he supported me all throughout it. Just a quick story, when my youngest was born, I was breastfeeding him, and I was hunting at my mom's house, and I literally fed him, got up in the stand, hunted for a while, came in, fed him again, and went back out into the stand and killed a deer. But it was my husband who was providing the support at home so that I could go do that. When women go out and they hunt, time is a precious commodity. And so I think the biggest thing as instructors and information that we provide to people has to be cut to the quick, don't make these mistakes, this is how you succeed, and then help them build a network where they can succeed, because their time is so pulled by family pressures, job pressures, family, again, husband abilities, that when they do get a chance to go out, sometimes it's just a break from family, but other times they'll get discouraged if they don't succeed right away. And that has become my worry, because I teach a lot about deer hunting. And to go out and hunt a deer and to drag it in, I'm 5'1" and 130 pounds and 50 years old. There's no way I'm going to go hunt a deer and successfully drag it home. So having the support, I always tell people, I tell them all the time, that's why God gave me boys. You know, all my boys are grown. They're 6 foot tall. They can help drag things. Some other ladies might not have that luxury. They might need, I loved when somebody said they had a check-in station where you had somebody help you gut the deer and check it in, maybe get it into a truck. Because even if you're going to take it to a butcher, you need to do those things. And so that's where I find some women scratching their head going, I don't know how to do that successfully. Even if I were to kill the deer, what do I do with it? That's where I feel like even though they take our workshops, they struggle on the back end because, yes, they want to do this, and I see it in their eyes. But then on the back end, they're like, who's going to help me drag this deer out, this buck, even a doe? Who's going to help me drag this out? And those are the kind of problems that we need to come around them and say, we're going to help solve this. Even if it's a hunting buddy, maybe it's teaching classes differently. A gentleman that we have working for Fish and Wildlife in Kentucky, he started hunting late in life, and he did not know how to gut a deer. So he learned how to butcher a deer in the field and pack out the meat with it. And the ladies that took that class were in awe. They were fascinated. They're like, I could do this. This is a different way that never has been shown to me, because traditionally men go and gut the deer, and they want you to gut the deer and drag the deer. That's not always an option for women. We have to come around things from a different angle and say, how can I make this, eat the elephant one bite at a time? How can we give them that bite, that first bite, and then say it's okay to take the second bite. It's okay to expand your horizons and take that third bite. You can do this. And those are the problems we have to solve if we want to retain them. Getting them in the door is nothing more than making them feel comfortable and having them relate through imagery and instructors and ladies that they can mentor with. But then on the backside, we have to solve some of the problems they're going to find if they go out on their own.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. And I mean, I go into the field deer hunting too, but I won't go unless I have a four-wheeler or something that I can get the deer out with. And so that's another barrier for me is access, because if I don't have a four-wheeler or I don't have somewhere I can take a four-wheeler in, I'm just not going to hunt there because I know that I can't do it. And J.J. Hinton from Mule Deer Foundation said kind of the same thing about his wife. He said she loves to hunt, but will not big game hunt alone because she's not capable of getting a deer out of the woods. The physical limitation makes her favor small game, and I totally get that. So yeah, that's a great point. And I think, Samantha, you wanted to speak up?
I did. It kind of makes me laugh because when I look at Western hunting techniques, packing out an animal is commonplace. But in Eastern hunting, deer culture mostly, dragging a deer, gutting and dragging a deer is like commonplace. So when you're one of the first people in hunting camp to suggest packing it out with a backpack, get some funny looks. But maybe the future of our culture is, different techniques for different folks. And it made me stop and think, or stop and pause for a second. As the last speaker was sharing about dragging out an animal, there's a program, an effort that started here. It didn't take a lot of, here being Pennsylvania, it didn't take a lot of root, but it's still hanging around, and that's volunteers to help elderly hunters drag out their animals, because the same challenge exists, is the physical capability. And, they set up like a call line and said, if you need help dragging out your deer, just give us a shout, we'll do it. And they targeted older hunters, aging hunters. But the same thing could be applicable to female hunters too, if necessary, or even male hunters, whomever. Get a 600-pound bear in our area, you need help just the same. And so there's some elements here. I keep going back and forth between like women-specific efforts. And again, I was in a New England state. I can't remember which one it was off the top of my head. I want to say Vermont, but I could be wrong, maybe Massachusetts. But they went back and forth between listing female only, and then also offering opportunities for just co-ed and listing them like that because of the preferences described earlier too. So I'm giving all these examples to kind of sum up that some of the tactics that, while we're talking women specific, are actually applicable to other elements in making either more inclusive, but also just evolving a little bit. Aging hunters are the thing we're dealing with, so that's an aspect of it that we're evolving too. And so as you're talking about your strategies and your plans, there's some application for women groups and women customers that we can bring into other groups too. And it hadn't occurred to me in that manner until just now. So I'd be interested, as people go forward, if there's other tactics they're taking for maybe other target audiences to make it more inclusive there or to help them out. Can it be applied to females too? And is there a way to strategically just say we're going to do this here in our plan
but then it can also benefit X, Y, and Z. And what do we need to do to make the most out of each tactic we're using? A very interesting kind of points y'all are bringing up. I just wanted to kind of throw that out there and we offer a chance for people to think about it and see who else they can serve when taking different approaches. Women being the first, but who else beyond that?
That reminds me of this news story that hit in November last year about this 104-year-old woman in Wisconsin killing her first deer after getting her hunting license. And man, if she can do it, like, I feel really maybe that's not the right word. I feel like I should be doing better, basically, but I just put the link to that article in the chat box because it really is a cool story, and it kind of combines, you know, the two things that you're talking about, Samantha, is older hunters and female hunters. So that's pretty cool if you just want something kind of uplifting to read about. Ellen says, love the hotline idea of dragging the deer out. It's a game changer. I totally agree. I mean, do any of you guys ever go out and like not let anybody know you're out there? If you do, don't, because that's really dangerous, first of all. But also, I mean, we all need help, and if some women are more confident going out if they know they have help, or help from another woman even, because you're in the woods and that can be kind of scary situation. Yeah, I think that hotline is a great idea. And Ellen also said, I think that helping check stations would help single moms with kids, new hunters, male or female. Yeah, that's a good point. And that's a big part of why women lapse more than men, is because they're taking care of their families. And although that's a very, you know, early 1900s idea of the woman staying home with kids, we haven't grown out of that for the most part. And so if we had a way that women could, or men, or families, you know, could do something with their kids that maybe was engaging for them while they went out and hunt, that's really interesting. And I don't know of any programs that offer like a daycare option. If anybody else does, feel free to speak up and let us know how you did it.
This is Marcia. I don't have any thing to say about childcare, which I think is a really cool idea, especially in peak season. I'd be curious to see what the impacts of that might be. But I did want to go back. I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of the person who was speaking, but the point about how because women oftentimes can't fall back on their strengths to get a job done, we have to just be a little bit more creative about troubleshooting, given the tools that we have in the field. And I think that's an incredible point. And, you know, as a big game hunter in the West, for me, that's everything from trying to gut a deer and go through the pelvic bone, or, you know, holding the legs apart for an elk, which takes a lot of strength. And I think the more women's stories we get out there, the more women will be able to share the hacks that they have for working around some of those difficulties and the tools that we've implemented to supplement our strength in that area. And I think elevating women's voices is the best way to get that kind of creativity out there. But I couldn't agree more with that point.
Yeah, that's awesome. Rachel, I see that you are called in. Do you want to talk about Iowa a little bit?
I'm here. Sorry. This whole COVID thing, we have 2 conference calls going on at the same time, so I had to run outside so you didn't get to hear about credit unions in the state of Iowa. Yeah. Kristen, I know you were talking, but I didn't quite hear that question, if you don't mind repeating it.
Oh, I just wanted to know if you wanted to talk a little bit about the Iowa programs that you talked about in the chat box.
Yeah, sure. So
4 or 5 years ago, Kentucky started a Field to Fork program focused on adult hunters and really focusing on deer hunting, kind of providing that bigger animal, trying to provide food for families or individuals. And so we were lucky enough to get one of the gentlemen from Kentucky to move to Iowa, so we've been kind of incorporating that program in. And so we've been working with local archery retailers to have people learn the archery aspect of things, and then we go out for a weekend hunt. And with that hunt, we have folks up in tree stands, and for those of you that have been in a tree stand with someone you didn't really know, it sometimes creates a little awkward moment, especially when you have to stand up and you realize that your butt's in someone else's face, trying to take a shot and whatever. So it's through conversations with those adult mentors, half of which being female, or excuse me, not mentors, participants, we realized that a lot of them had gained the skills through the 12 weeks or so of hands-on practice, and they were willing to go out on their own. They just really needed someone like a lifeline or a phone a friend, if you will. So we had a couple conservation officers that were willing to kind of be on standby. Give us a call if you need anything. And yeah, so it seemed to work pretty well. So that was my 2 cents.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
that's great. I saw you mention the mobile mentor idea, and that is absolutely brilliant, to have people just kind of on call when new hunters need them in the field. That's super awesome, and it's kind of like a simple fix that I don't know that I've heard of anybody else setting that up kind of formally. So is your mobile mentor thing, like, do people just sign up for it to be on call, or how does that work?
No, it's not patent by any means. I kind of just named it Mobile Mentor today when I was typing it.
I love it.
No, it really came out of this Field to Fork program where people were comfortable with the other participants, they were comfortable with the main instructors, and they were comfortable with their mentors. They're just, whether it was the stand or the blind that they were hunting out of, there just really wasn't that space, and there wasn't the need for that hands-on. And from a female perspective, I think sometimes it's a little daunting to be in a blind or a tree stand especially with a male that you don't know. And so this kind of gave that opportunity. And our conservation officers are working in the area anyway. They have their phones on them, and they were willing to kind of provide that opportunity. And so it's something that we're looking with this year. We're doing 2 more Field to Fork programs across the state, and so we're looking to provide that opportunity again. And what we've noticed is when we talk to our participants for last year, it's a pretty small program still, so there's only 10 of them, but of the 10, they all plan on going back out this year, and they were all excited about having 4 or 5 phone numbers that they could call of the mentors that they worked with last year for that kind of phone a friend call. So
that's awesome. And maybe that's something that we can start setting up. I think it would be really, I say easy. I know it's not easy to get people to commit things and give you their phone numbers, but if they're already in kind of like your mentor database, that would be something that they could decide to commit to or not.
And
Bobby,
to kind of,
sorry, go ahead.
Can I just add to that? Nebraska was doing something pretty cool, a little bit more forced because of COVID, but they were actually doing Zoom turkey hunts So you could be out in your turkey blind hunting, and then you have your digital lifeline, if you will, with your Zoom call, where you could ask somebody else, did I place my blind right? Are my decoys too far, or is that the right placement? Just those kind of quick check-in questions, little reassurance while you're out in the field. So they were looking to start that this spring with turkey hunt. So I'd be interested to hear from those guys to see how that went.
Yeah, I would too, because I know most of the places I hunt in don't have any cell service. So, and definitely not enough for a Zoom call. So I'm interested to hear about how that went. Bobby Jones has put in the chat box, has anyone ever asked participants before they took a new hunter course or program if they preferred a woman instructor or man instructor and tried to pair up participants in that way? Speaking as a former leader in Illinois, Learn to Hunt, we didn't do that up front, but we quickly found that that was preferable, and so we did start asking people afterward, and it was more informal. But I don't know, does anybody who's on the line, has anybody done like a formal pairing up process like that for Learn to Hunt, or any kind of instructor-led programming?
We did it for
This is Emily from the Missouri Department of Conservation. We have done not necessarily such a formal evaluation like that prior to the hunt. We've been doing mentored hunts for just like everybody else a number of years. And what we've noticed, and me being a staff member in the field, is that as we get ready for the hunt, because a lot of us run into the issue that not all of our female hunters or single moms that bring their boys, we don't have enough female hunter mentors. We all know not the ones that feel super experienced. And so what we'll do is we have kind of a meet and greet orientation. So we have the orientation and the hunt, and then we also meet everybody else up. And we have those female role models that are involved in the hunt be a really strong presence in the orientation part, so that it kind of inspires everybody else that's involved. And then the male mentors that they may or may not be partnered up with are still able to get that connection with them, so you don't have that much of a sensation of sitting in a blind with some stranger and not being able to talk real loud, and a lot of that bonding happens in the blind, but those are also ways to kind of deviate from those challenges.
Yeah, that's a good point. Cool. I'm getting a little bit behind in the chat, but it looks like people are talking about the Mommy and Me idea that Kayla presented. That's a really cool idea, and especially with, when you get your kids involved from a young age, they tend to carry that mindset through their lifetime because of the way that the brain develops through aging. And most of you, or some of you probably saw that in South Dakota, they just had a 13-year-old girl, Savannah, present to their commissioner that they needed a longer youth hunting season because she wanted to go out with her family more than 2 weekends, and it got passed. And so that's the kind of ambassador that we need. And if we're going to be encouraging people to do that at such a young age, or at any age really, it needs to be kind of ingrained in them from very young. So the Mommy and Me classes are really intriguing. Does anybody know of programs that offer something like that, or does anybody have programs like that?
I'll add in. This is Sam from the council. I went on the brain thought of, setting up a daycare option, right? The fitness centers have that, where you can do daycare and drop your kids off for daycare and let them go out and let moms work out. And then at the same time, I went back and forth between, well, taking the kids hunting is probably, an option as well, too. If you try to implement it and you try to look at that and see how would you do something? Like, how could I volunteer locally to do that? might be able to reach out to like my local land management area and set up something. But there's a lot of efforts there, and it might only get them in the field for like 2 or 4 hours. So maybe it's more of a messaging aspect to say some alone time in the woods as a mom is okay to ask for, because maybe that's one of the more challenging things that people are coming up against is like not putting themselves first. I'd really be interested in just diving deeper into like what female hunters would need in that arena. And I know that, you know, a lot of millennials are having babies right now, so it's probably going to be a recurring need in the next 5 years. So what does that look like? How can we help them for the best? Maybe not roll out a program, maybe it's more messaging and just encouraging, you know, people to consider their other hunting partners as they go. I'm not sure what that would look like. We're just putting that thought out there.
I think that's I agree, Sam. I think that's a great thought, and I think more research needs to be done there, especially because I think the answer to that question changes depending on how old the kids are. And I'd be curious to kind of trace that path out.
And I've seen a lot more women on social media taking pictures, you know, decked out in camo with their kids strapped to their chest or their back, and just being like, just owning it. Like, yeah, I'm a badass mom. I have my kid and I'm hunting at the same time, and this is how we do it. And that's another aspect of that social support through social media that I think has been really important to encourage people to hunt in new and different ways. Sorry, Samantha, did I interrupt you?
No, you did not. You said exactly what I would have shared.
Awesome. Love it when we're on the same page.
Always.
I
I did want to kind of
chat box here.
I want to throw one other thing out there. The idea of mentoring a little bit. In the time of COVID, a lot of people are putting it on my radar that maybe they're not going to be able to do their own program in the fall for whatever reason it might be, upspring of new cases, whatever it might be. And so a lot of people are going to digital resources, and they actually have time right now to plan courses or other aspects ahead of time that people could participate in, you know, remotely or not. And so I just wanted to put it out there. Maybe some people haven't been thinking about it. I think the simple idea of just offering a space to chat and converse with colleagues or friends or new hunters might be valuable. I know, subtle plug, there's a So You Think You Want to Fish seminar coming up this afternoon hosted by Artemis. But I think there is some really great value in just conversations. I know Kristen and I have been tuning into Brown Girl Outdoors, I think. She's hosting Monday sessions every Monday, Instagram Live or Sunday, depending on the day. But just conversation and helping people when we might be restricted in our ability to put on events or anything, we're not restricted in the technology aspect. So as you're going forward and thinking about it, it takes you an hour to host a Facebook Live event, but your reach and everything might be just as great, especially in these times ahead. So put it on your radar. Use the community if you have an idea about what you're going to do and get some feedback on it. There's probably some regional efforts we could do too. So just putting it out there, think about it, because I think there's a lot of value there. And I'll stop talking now, but just putting that out there.
Can I follow up on that really quick?
Yeah, go ahead, Marcia.
First, Sam, thanks for the plug. Yeah, we're doing a webinar tonight called So You Think You Want to Fish, and then there's another one next week called So You Think You Want to Hunt. And those are just digital spaces for people who are interested in getting in the field or who are new to the field to ask questions from people who have a lot of experience. But I also agree, I think I know personally from my experience, when I do spend time in the field, I often come away with just a million questions. And so I think creating a space where you can debrief and just ask those questions it has the potential to be really valuable.
Yeah, good point. And I put where Samantha was talking about Brown Girl Outdoor World, that is her Instagram handle. I put that in the chat box if you want to look her up. Like Samantha said, she does these webinar video interactions on her Instagram platform every Monday, and they're super awesome. So I highly recommend going and checking her out. Ellen mentioned a seminar for husbands of how to help your wife become a hunter. I love that. Does anybody know if there's anything out there already, or like should we put our heads together and start coming up with something for this? Because that is brilliant.
Kristen,
Yes.
it's Ellen.
Hi, Ellen.
The only reason I bring that up is because over the years, and it's been 15, 20 years since my husband got me into hunting, he did a lot of things right without even knowing it. I think, for example, a lot of husbands will buy their wives some cheap hunting clothes and send them out to see if they like hunting. My husband kind of took the opposite approach, and he buys me the best of everything. He makes sure it fits me. He makes sure that it's something that I'm going to be happy with, that I'm going to be successful with. You know, for my birthday, he bought me a brand new bow last year. So, yeah, I'm kind of spoiled. Well, there's other things I don't like, but that's a different conversation. You know, I don't do flowers. I don't do chocolate, but I do bows and arrows. So there are things that guys can do as far as what they help their wives buy or purchase, as far as maybe a ground blind. Or there can be other things just in the way that they don't push so hard. Sometimes the men are really competitive and they're very aggressive when it comes to hunting. And some women are like, okay, let me see if I like doing it this way, or let me see if I feel comfortable walking in the dark. There's a lot of things that women feel, okay, they see their husband go off in the dark, or they can go off in the dark, or their dad, and they go into the deep, dark woods, and most women sit there and go, oh my God, I'm going to be eaten by a coyote, or, you know, is a bear going to get me? Those are like common concerns, and it's very critical how a husband, a boyfriend, a father addresses those things with their daughter, wife, girlfriend, different things like that. So, yeah, I think it is probably a conversation that needs to be had, and from a lot of different women. I know there's a lot of women on this call that could probably tell you what's been done to them the right way and what's been done to them the wrong way that has discouraged them. With women, like I said, time is precious. They need to know that they're not wasting time, that their ability to go out in the woods is valued not just by them, but by, you know, their husband or their father, whatever. Those kind of things need to be taught to men. Women think differently than men. It's just a fact of life, and those things need to be, we need to come at those things from a different angle than what's normal for most men. Like my husband, we have a lot of ridges and ravines where I live, and I'm like, you know, we ought to really think about packing meat out. That's a foreign concept to him. He's never done that before. He was deer and dragging it out. That's the way it's always been done. Part of it is getting men to think differently, so that they make the experience more enjoyable for the woman in their life, no matter her age. So yeah, I think that's another piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that reminded me of another great account that you guys can follow in the chat box. It's Other Cindy Lou. Some of y'all know her. She's in Indiana. Her name is Cindy Stites. I think she runs the BHA chapter there, or she's highly involved in it. But she's done a lot of podcasts and written a lot of articles about how she got into hunting through her boyfriend, and how hunting has really changed her life for the better. And so I really recommend following her. She's one of the most women supportive first people that I know. She's just awesome. So highly recommend checking her out. We are coming up on the hour, so unfortunately I am going to cut this conversation. If you want a part 3, I don't know, put it in the box. We'll see what happens. And if you have a target topic for a part 3, let me know so that I can structure it a little bit better. These things go just a little smoother when we have some semblance of structure. So let me know what you want. Let me know what you're thinking. Again, this recording will be posted within 24 hours. Thanks, Ellen. Helps and hacks, I love it. That's such a good topic. We can start making our list. So thanks for participating. We appreciate your time. We know things are hectic with everybody moving online and trying to go from one Zoom call to the next, especially when they run over by approximately 3 minutes. Sorry about that. But we hope you had a good conversation. We hope you took away some things to think about. Check out some of these links and tags in the chat box. And as always, we will see you in the community. Thanks so much.